Happily, it's time to talk rugby. Alan, Quinlan and Shane Byrne, good morning to you.
Morning.
How are you doing?
Morning, lads.
Owen's a bit hungover here, just to bring you up to speed with what's been going on over the last hour. He turned up late for work and he's a bit hungover, so we probably won't hear too much from him over the course of the next 15 minutes or so. Come here, we wanted to, obviously it's such an interesting weekend of rugby, and maybe in a lot of ways for all the wrong reasons, and to focus in on one of those big ones to begin with, if we can, around Munster. Threadbare, obviously, for the trip to Coventry to take on Wasps on Sunday, game that's live and off the ball. One front row player, and it looks like Roman Salanoa is coming back from injury to be put in there. You maybe assume that he wouldn't have been put in other than the magnitude of the game and how desperate they are. Similar story at hooker, with a player coming in potentially from the academy, little experience in that department. And Shane, I wondered, with the front row specifically, it's such a technical position. Have you any concern about the safety aspect of this game?
Well, ironically, the way it's worked out between injuries coming back, as you've mentioned, and a senior player, I'm propping to start the team. It's not too bad. Yeah, there's going to be inexperience at hooker. Yeah, look, we all know, hopefully with the team that they are going to be going with, from the front row point of view, you would hope that there's as much been done as possible, which unfortunately probably is very little, because we don't know who's locked away and who isn't. But, you know, it's the kind of thing that some props go high, some go low. It's all about the footwork. It's all about protecting each other in those positions. And it is a little bit worrisome going in against an outfit that have played together all the time. You'd be no doubt that they will try to target that. You ideally want a front row that are well familiar with themselves, particularly when it's a European Cup game, as this one is. The challenge will be there, but look, thankfully there is experience at prop, which is the main thing. The hooker hopefully will be able to get up to the level as quick as he can. But you know, these guys have been thereabouts in the academies, playing at decent levels. So, you know, hopefully the step up won't be too bad.
Just on the technical side of it, Shane, is hooker, if you were to have an inexperienced player across the front three, and no disrespect meant, but is hooker the best place to have that then, or I suppose maybe an extension of that, if you're Wasps, is that a position you can target in the scrum?
Very definitely a position you can target. Tighthead guides his push in towards the hooker, tries to get away from the loose head and put a lot of pressure on the hooker. Yeah, it is. Loose head you can get away with as well a lot. Tight head is the one position that you absolutely can't go in without experience. That's the most difficult position in the front row. There's no doubt about that. But look, the hooker can just go it can be very technical. Hookers, the more experience they get, it's more the assistance they can give to the props. But at the weekend, he should just be taking care of his own job, getting very, very square onto his own hooker and just keeping the pressure on him. And that's where he's going to be. Don't expect anything wild. Just be safe and be very, very strong for the front row. He's huge experience right and left of him, which should really, really help. And the guys, the props, there is ways, Kilcoyne in particular, can help and protect him against a tight head going in. And that's going to be key. He's a massive amount of experience with Kilcoyne there.
How can they protect him? What's the technicalities around that?
Well, remember what I said to you is that when you're attacking a hooker who you think is a weak scrummager, the tight head guides away from the loose head, because normally you go just straight onto the back of the neck of the loose head and you try to pin him. But if you step into that space a little bit, you end up with a lot more pressure on the opposition hooker, so that you're actually pushing through him as well as your hooker. So the Pearson movement is going through that direction. And you want to be able to do that. And the fact is that Wasps will definitely do that. But if Kilcoyne chases the tight head across, keeps him as busy as he possibly can, well, then he'll have too much in his hands to be able to spend any time concentrating on the hooker.
Quinny, you assume that Munster played out every eventuality here, right? They must have at some point looked at whether this game was viable. Do you think it ever came close to doing a Scarlets on it and pulling out of it?
No, I don't. I think right from the word go, and that's what I was hearing, that no matter what, they were going to play this game, because there was no option of the only option of pulling out was forfeiting the game. So I think having the 9 internationals and Ian Costello at home and the ability to be able to prepare for this game last week and this week enable them to put a team out. So I don't think they ever considered that, and I was glad they didn't.
You're not worried about the safety aspect, Quinny?
I am, yeah, I am, because and we'll know after the first couple of scrums whether there is an issue. If you see a scrum going backwards at a rate of knots at this level, it can be very, very dangerous. And if I was Watts and John Mitchell, who was speaking during the week, and he's fairly abrupt and ruthless kind of a fella, he'd be getting his forwards to really go after Munster here. But Shane said it. Look, these guys are technically, they're good players. But the issue for me is the strength. It's that mature adult strength that you get, and we don't really see props until they're kind of into their 20s, unless they're freakish, being able to cope at that level. Let's hope they can. It would concern me, and it's kind of the unknown. We've been talking the unknown now for the last 10 days. Who's going to start and how they'll cope in that situation. Obviously, if they can get their scrum right, Adrian, and their set piece and win lineouts, well, they have a lot of experienced players in the field, and that may be able to do things and maybe able to hurt us. But it's the safety issue is a worry for me.
If I could jump in there, lads, just one of the things that's going to be taken into account here is that a good scrum lasts seconds. It really does. If they work very hard on getting the ball in and out, if there is any doubt, as Quinny's saying, that the strength could be an issue, that a good scrum lasts seconds. Get the ball in, get the ball out, no messing around, and just move on, and then concentrate on other parts of the game. So there's enough experience in the props to be able to knuckle it down for a few seconds, no matter what's happening at hooker. And if the ball is struck back out to number 8, and the instruction is get the ball out, that's how you protect your front row. Is
the biggest worry almost that the off the bench, like they need to keep those 3 players on the pitch for the entirety of it?
Yes, there's no doubt about that. I think the unknown here is the bench. We all know, as Quinny said, there's massive experience still on that starting team. So if we're able to secure a ball from set piece, no matter what it is, there's plenty of experience to keep this game going, to win this game. It's the bench. That's the unknown. That's the thing we don't know what's going to be on the bench. We don't know who's in isolation. We don't know what the likely makeup of the bench is going to be. Ian Costello, I'm sure, he's the perfect man for doing it, because he is with the academy. He'll have the best people for the job. But yeah, it is a real unknown. And look, if these guys, Kilcoyne, the lads, it'll be hard, when the guys come back from injuries. But Kilcoyne, the lads, with no problem. If they have to put in an 80-minute stretch, they'll do it.
Alan, does it change how Munster approach this game? Is it just a case of keeping the ball alive more? Is it a case of shifting it away so that you don't have to rely on that set piece, you don't have to rely on that pack as much as perhaps Munster do rely on the pack?
Yeah, I would imagine so, Owen. I think, obviously, with missing all the experience that they're going to be missing, they're not going to be... trying to keep it tight. Will they kick and try and keep it in field? I think the worst thing you can do with any inexperienced side is and it's the same in any sport. And I think of, if it's the soccer team and you've a week back four and you've a load of injuries and fresh guys, you're not going to play out from the back, are you? Look at Liverpool last year when they were missing all the centre halves. I think the more you mess around with it, the more you give the opposition a sense that they're a little bit nervous in doing these things. So maybe we're expecting that they'll throw the ball around everywhere and start running it from all angles. I think they just got to manage the tempo of the game and see how they get on. And like after 10 or 15 minutes, if these guys look comfortable and get some plays and get some big tackles or even a couple of big carries, will that instill confidence throughout the group? Because you would think that the obvious way of thinking on is that you're going to try and keep the ball alive and play with pace and tempo and less pressure, if you like, because nobody expects Munster to win this game. So kind of if I was in the dressing room where Shane was, I think you'd be saying, let's go out and just try and play with a high pitched tempo here and really go for this. And if you get some go forward and you get a score or two where you're in the game, well, then you get that bit of a feel-good factor. Of course, the opposite can happen. If Wasps come out and start the game really well and they dominate the collision areas, that would really kind of drain the confidence. So, look, there's enough of good experienced players there. I think if Chris Farrell starts and Damien Dealend in the centre, you want to try and build some sort of a game plan around those guys, get the ball into their hands as quick as you can. But I would imagine Murray and Carberry will try and play in the Wasps half. I'd like to see a lot of kick from Carberry rather than from Conor Murray, because if you're going box kicking, it's kind of slowing things down. Of course, there'll be some situations that they will have to kick from their 9. But again, it just depends what way it goes. But going back to your original question, I think, look, throw the ball around and have a go, because look, if you, in a sense, there's less pressure here in Munster because everybody expects them to lose this game.
Yeah.
I think, lads, that there's a huge psychological side to this for both sides. I think every single positive for Munster is double positive for them, and a negative directly against Wasps, because exactly what Quinny said, the expectation because of the disruption is very, very much against Munster. But if they have a good scrum, if their line out starts to work, every positive, if they stay in the game the longer they do. Remember, Wasps are not in great form coming into this game. This would have been a full strength. Munster would have been expected to go over there and get the win. They're not playing well at the moment, and with no defensive coach, they're shipping tries. So every single positive puts a huge swing for Munster, I think, and Wasps will be very aware of that. They'll come out at the start of this game trying to get as many positives as they can, trying to out-physical any weak points in that side. And the longer Munster can weather the storm, we all know they thrive, the psychology is they thrive with the adversity, it will go massively in favour of Munster. And it's just to see, can they keep that going?
And a note half that despite his surname, maybe if you can knock him off his game a little bit early on, that they might be able to get a bit of joy there as well. Just look at some of the other matches. Leinster-Bath, 3:15 tomorrow at the Aviva. Shane, Bath, is there anything to be discussed here? Is this just a straightforward, almost got a bit of a route written on it? I Bath are dire this year. Absolutely terrible. Whatever is going on with them, their defence, I think they're the second worst defence in the English Premiership at the moment. Leinster probably got their rude awakening that they needed against Ulster a couple of weeks ago, and I can't see them messing up this game at all. I really can't. I think they'll have the bit between the teeth, and as you say, it should be a foregone conclusion. Yeah, one win in their last 15 Premiership games. I think tells you all you need to know about where Bath are at the minute. Connacht Stad in Galway on Sunday at 1 o'clock. Any slip, as we know, with this kind of a weird and I'm going to say temporary, but not all that temporary format that's there at the minute, any sort of a slip and you're done. And particularly with Leicester obviously coming up next weekend, a win at home against Stad, vital.
Yeah, it is. They need to start with a win. I think Stad, they're a dangerous side. They have a lot of explosive, physical players, talented players, but they themselves have struggled in the top 14. They're 10th in us. They played 12, lost 7 games, and that should have been 8 last weekend because La Rochelle should have beaten them last Sunday night. Again, we say it all the time, and I'm sure Shane will agree. It's the psychology of the French sides. Do they value Europe more, the French Championship more? Well, it's the French Championship, and Stade now are down in 12th, so they'll want to win league games and get up the table a little bit and secure not being a dogfight at the bottom of the table. But what you've got to do against these French sides is you have to start well, make it miserable for them. Not sure what the weather is like on Sunday in Galway. We saw Connacht playing brilliantly in wet conditions a few weeks ago against the Ospreys, but this is a must-win game for Connacht. I think they really need a performance here. Not a performance. Find a way to win. Europe can be so different. League form can go out the window. It's about cup rugby and how you win games. And I would fancy Connacht to be just too have too much kind of fitness, too much determination, too much accuracy to get the job done. I think they will beat Stade. But who knows in this competition? It's an intriguing competition. if Stad go there and they get themselves into the game, I'm sure they'll make some changes from the team that starts the league every week, from you guys coming in, different points to prove. So what they're going to get is a big physical side who have a lot of talent, but collectively the desire and the drive for getting a result in the sports ground, I don't think will be there for Stad. So it's a perfect start, I think. And I'd fancy Connacht to be comfortable enough in that game. They have to win this one because you've back-to-back games with Leicester then. And I think that will really define if Connacht can get out of this group, because there's 3 games there for Connacht to win, I think. The one, the following week, they're away in Leicester. You've got to win your home games and pick up something on the road. And I think it'd be a brilliant achievement for them to get to the round 16, the knockout stages of this competition.
And a big shout for, I presume, Ulster must be feeling very confident. Claremont, again, not quite a bat, but maybe not having the season that you might expect from them. Dwayne Vermeulen possibly comes in for his first start for Ulster. Plenty of reasons for them to feel confident. Both of you giving them a shake?
Yeah, well, we all know Claremont, like, even though they're not having the best season they've ever had, they're still formidable at home. I think they've only lost 1 game at home this season. So it is still going to be a major ask to go down there. But yeah, there's no doubt about it. Vermeulen coming back would be a big plus, because the results last week, that was completely coming off the way they played against Leinster. So many people were kind of thinking, oh, Leinster had their dip in form and that's it. But I'm telling you, I was at the game that Ulster just never let up. And it was a superb style of play that they played, and they've got to keep that going. So they've had their low then last weekend, letting that game slip away for them against Osprey. So they need to get back up to where they are. A little boost with Vermeulen, if he can come back, if he's going to start the game, will be absolutely superb for them. But they have a task. There's no doubt about it. We've all been there. Claremont is a big challenge at home. They're still a very proud side, no matter what way their season is going. And they like playing in Europe. As Quinny mentions there, the psychology of their French sides, but they like playing in Europe. So it is, I think it's one of the hardest games this weekend.
Shane, we were chatting to Keith Wood during the week just about the, I guess, embarrassment of riches that Leinster have in their pack, but particularly the hooker position. And he was ranking, I think, Ronan Kelleher #1, Dan Sheehan #2, and Rob Herring then obviously from Ulster as his #3 in the Ireland setup when it comes to hookers. What's your view on how those rankings look at the moment?
Well, from the form that you've seen, from the ball carrying by them all, would you argue with it? You probably wouldn't argue with that at the moment. Yeah, the great thing is that what I like across the way that they're playing is that the line out throwing, which is a crux of so many guys that they can't be, is not been mentioned. It's just that they're being judged on how good of a player they are, which is great. That means they're ticking the box in scrum, they're ticking the box in the line out, and it's just their general playing, their dynamism, and how good they are on the ball, off the ball, in defence, which is absolutely superb to see, because that's where real competition should be. Because if you want to play hooker at that stage, you should be ticking those boxes anyway, the set piece boxes. That should be just part of your job. That's done. And the 3 of them are. Their success rate is good on all counts. So it's great to see it. I think the way you mentioned it there, unfortunately for Herring, is, you're probably right. Like, in general play right now, you couldn't argue far from that. Will that happen? I don't know what way far it'll go.
Ulster to get the win in France, Quinny?
Really difficult. They disappointed everyone, I think, who with the performance last week in the Ospreys. And I was really frustrated with the way they kicked the ball away, and they were inaccurate in so many things they did. And it's an issue for them, that consistency, Adrian. So I think it's going to be really difficult. I think Claremont just has so much power and quality, and Shane said it, very few teams go to Stade Marshal Michelin and win there. It's an incredibly difficult place to go. I played there, and if they get their tails up, I think it's going to be very difficult for Ulster. I think they've shown glimpses of how good they can be, but they just got to be far more accurate. And you can't get this emotional pitch when you go to the RDS and win for the first time in 8 years there, and then kind of go over to the Ospreys, and not a great Ospreys side. I mean that respectfully. They're missing all their internationals as well, and they frustrated Munster a few weeks previous, but that was the one where you wanted Ulster to say, yeah, we're going to use this victory in the RDS, and this is a kind of a line in the sand now where we have to bring this standard of aggression and energy every week. And I think they let themselves down over in the Ospreys, and that was the disappointing thing. Of course, they're going to be up for this game, but it's a really difficult place to go, and I don't think Ulster will win the game. I really hope if they can get something out of the game by a good performance, ideally losing bonus points. But who knows? Munster were hanging on for dear life last year when they played them there, and it looked like Claremont would win by 40 points. And, you know, you look at the end of the game, Munster are the ones who win the game, and an unbelievable second half performance and an unbelievable comeback. So I'm sure Dan McFarlane will look at that, and they'll analyse Claremont really well. They've a lot of seasoned internationals and a lot of familiar faces that are in this Claremont squad. But they've got to stop the likes of George Moala in the centre, Matsushima, Raka, these guys. If they get the ball, they can just cut it to pieces. So a lot of stuff has to go right for Ulster to get a result here, and I think it's a step too far for them.
Yeah, we'll see how it pans out over the coming days. Enjoy the rugby over the weekend, lads. Thanks a million.
No worries.
Cheers.
Care,
thanks, lads.
Cheers. Shane Byrne and Alan Quinlan there looking ahead to the weekend's rugby and picking through particularly the bones of that. What's going to be a pretty fascinating match between Munster. Like, I don't know, maybe I'm overthinking it on. It sounds like the lads are, if not confident, certainly happy that it's going to be somewhat safe, and like we're not headed to any sort of situation of uncontested scrums or anything like that. It doesn't appear from what the lads are thinking anyway.
No, I presume your fears will either be deepened or otherwise once you see the team sheet. Once you see that front row,
Yeah,
and
well,
say,
I
16,
think
17, 18.
I think they expect, yeah, well, absolutely, because I think that the front row to start is probably known, and I think that I think there will be a conversation there where it'll be like, listen, lads, we don't want you coming off, so whatever you need to do to keep yourselves on there. And actually, Shane's point about getting the ball in and out of the scrum on your own scrum as quick as you can is a really well made point. I'd say that'll be absolute rapido, but equally, when Munster are putting it in, they're probably going to look to slow that down as much as they can.
Yeah, well, yeah, it could like be the most Barbarians-esque performance ever for Munster on Sunday. Just this swashbuckling, keep the ball away
it's
from
the Munster way, Owen, as we know.
It's the Munster way, exactly. The Ian Costello way. Maybe he'll put in such a good performance as a coach on Sunday that actually, if Johan van Graan does take the Bath job that they have, their ready-made replacement.